wife.
Who wins? Go ahead, Audrey.
The husband.
Go ahead.
He owns the house.
But she's on the deed. They own it together, Audrey.
I thought you said she didn't.
I didn't. They both own the house. Their names are both on there. So the question is, if the wife says, oh my God, I'm being beaten, come in and search for these drugs because they're right back here, I will take you to them, she is giving them permission. The husband is saying, oh no, I own this house. You can't come in because this is my property. Who wins, Audrey?
I still think it's the husband.
Go ahead, why?
Because they need permission. I guess if they're both on the deed, they still need permission from both.
Okay, so you're telling me if the husband is not there and the wife is, and she invites them in, is that legal?
No. That's really tough.
Wait, weren't you the one that had like 25 years of criminal experience?
Not 25.
15? Yeah, okay. Well, go ahead. This shouldn't be that hard, Audrey.
Well, if he's not there,
yes,
then she has the right to ask.
If he's not there, she's got the right, just as he would. Because the sense of it is that you've got a yes and you've got no no's.
Right.
Well, if you've got a yes and a no, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. Mal, go ahead.
They both lose. Because my father has 27 acres of land in upstate New York that his family live around, and if someone decides to grow marijuana on that land that he owns but is not around, he's still liable for whatever drug trafficking that's going on his property. So if they're invited on either case, it doesn't matter. They're both legal. They both get charged with drug possession.
In fairness, there's a slight difference on this, and I'll tell you what it is. If you're growing, then in theory, that's all going to be out in plain view. And at that point, if it's in plain view, even if they fly over in a helicopter, for example, they can actually act on that. In this instance, none of it was in plain view. It's all shut off in that back bedroom, but it is absolutely there. So with this in mind, wife says, yes, come in, and I'm being beaten. And don't discount that. Husband says, no, you can't come in, police. Who wins?
I mean, they were initially called there on the abuse.
Sounds a little fishy, doesn't it?
I mean, she's going to jail too, as far as I'm concerned. But either way, they were called there on an abuse case, so that's what they're doing, and that's what they're there. And again, it's just like the case with nothing more, but you guys consume these. They're on your property. They have it. You're trying to destroy evidence. They've been invited in. It's again, if you're not there.
But they've also been told to stay out.
Okay.
So if he's abusing her and she says, I'm being abused, come in, and it's only the abuse thing, but he says, oh no, I'm abusing her, don't come in.
Yeah.
I mean, are you still just not going to come in?
Yeah, but you have to admit, there's a difference there. I mean, and give you an example of this. I mean, let's be honest. And now, my mother is an alcoholic. She has been, and she still is.
Why do you put your family out here like that?
Well, no. I mean, I've seen some of these things. My mother actually, in North Carolina, if you call and you report domestic violence, they lock up both parties immediately. And their sense of it is in North Carolina is basically if the woman knows that she's going to be locked up too, then she's not going to raise false charges. Because if she raises false charges, that's going to send us, the police, on an awful lot of different goose chases, and we don't really want to go through this. Mm-hmm. So the sense is we lock them both up, we let the alcohol, whatever substances die down, we talk to them in 48 hours or within 48 hours, and then at that point, number one, this is going to discourage false claims. Number two, this is going to make it easier for us to get to the bottom of what happened. Be honest, if you call in domestic violence, police are going to get there quicker because it's going to be in the interest of protecting the woman, at least in theory. Now, having said this, when you get into domestic violence, he said, she said, sometimes women raise claims that aren't necessarily true because they want to get back at somebody. And in this instance, it's kind of likely that she was doing that. And then as soon as oh, by the way, why don't you come back here and find the drugs so you can go ahead and get him because I'm still really angry about this. And think about your own lives. There are some really high drama circumstances that both males and females pull off. So don't discount that. Having said this, Cynthia, who wins? If it's your house and the husband is there, and the husband is saying, come in because Cynthia's got a big stack of Aussie Bibles in the back bedroom. And you say, no, I don't want you coming in my house. Who wins? Because should it be based on gender, or should it be based on somebody saying yes and somebody saying no?
I say the wife wins.
In your instance, or in both instances?
Wait, what's mine?
You're the one saying no, the police can't come in. The husband calls the police. He said, Cynthia's committing domestic violence on me. And then when the police get there, then they take them back in the back bedroom to show them other horrible evidence of illegal activity that you do. The husband invites them in, and in this instance, you're saying, no, you can't search my house. Who should win now?
The husband.
Why?
Because if one says yes and they're both on it, I guess they're still getting invited regardless.
Okay, they are still getting invited, but in fairness, both instances have somebody saying no. And your property, at least in the United States, is supposed to be sacred, meaning the government is not supposed to go through it. Go ahead, Matt.
I think it depends on the actual act that's being committed, such as is the woman or is the man getting beat at that moment in time. Let's say, in this case, the woman was not getting beat. She was getting beat earlier, like, I don't know, not that day, but like a week ago.
Yeah.
And she was just still pissed off and disgruntled. Let's say the man is a taxpayer. Let's say his name is on the 1040. He gets the interest deduction for the mortgage. I think that's technically his house.
So he should be the one that says no. So if this is just a typical woman from the 1970s that really doesn't have a job, she's the homemaker, she's not earning income, the husband is the bread provider, the breadwinner at this point, you're saying the husband should win because he is paying for that house even if both of their names are on it.
Yes, unless she's getting beat at that moment.
Unless there's visible signs that something is going on. Show of hands. Oh, go ahead, Miguel. One more and then we'll vote.
I was just thinking, maybe she screwed herself and her husband by stating that there were illegal drugs in the house in the first place.
Because now she could be liable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did y'all ever see, what was that Denzel Washington movie, Out of Time?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody ever see that where the woman basically beats herself and causes all these bruises and reports domestic violence?
They do that all the time.
Those women.
There's some crazy women out
There
there.
are some
You don't have to tell me.
No, not
You don't have to tell me. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you said this. Show of hands. How many of you say if the woman says, come search the house, or whomever it is, male or female, to Cynthia's point, if somebody says yes, the police should be allowed to come in? How many of you say one yes equals a legal search, and then you can use this evidence for a conviction? Raise them up.
Dang.
Wouldn't there be a separate conviction though? Like the whole drugs and stuff? Aren't they?
It would be, yeah, and she's going after him. She is.
Yeah.
So should this justify, Cynthia, there's only one person. How many of you say one no means police, you can't come in? Raise them up.
Without a search warrant?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 to 1. Understand on this, if you get invited in, you don't need a search warrant. Because you've got the consent of the person that owns the house. That's why this is important. Because if you take the yes, they don't need a warrant. Everything they take can be used, and then you can prosecute the man. If you take the no, everything that they've gone in and gotten is now illegally obtained, which means this has got to be thrown out, and the man is not going to suffer charges. Go ahead.
But how about if one, like the first one, they get the yes and then the second one is a no? Wouldn't the yes count before the no?
So you're saying it depends on who said what first.
I would
That makes sense. But in fairness, when the police entered, they were basically just entering into the hallway. He said no. If you take the no, that means they need to stop right there and go get a warrant and then come back in. Of course, the danger with that would be he could destroy the evidence that's back there. But remember, truth, justice, and the American way, or fairness. This is what the court said. The court said, and I am not making this up, a man's home is his castle. A man's home is his castle, and the man is the king. And believe it or not, in this instance, they said because the man said no, the police were immediately required to stop, and since they didn't, they could not use the evidence that had been collected. They could not use the evidence that had been collected. These, the guns and the house search, are good examples of common law. Because when you think about it, different states have different gun laws, and in terms of this house search, when you think about this, different states view women different ways, meaning some states are going to be more protective. North Carolina is a state that is less protective, or it is more protective of men, I should say, for the fraudulent claims. So with this in mind, this is a judge-made law kind of thing. One last one, and let's go ahead and hit it. Sardar, what